Wow, a lot has happened this week. There's Hurricane Irene, there's some earthquake that happened, I guess, and Steve Jobs is stepping down as CEO of Apple. Oh, boy. Hello everyone, and welcome to the first real vlog on this channel. I am your host, Trilas, and I guess there's quite a lot to talk about this week. But I'm only going to talk about one of those subjects, and for this week, that will be Steve Jobs stepping down as CEO of Apple. So as it was announced on the not the 22nd. Well, I can't remember the exact date, but it doesn't matter. As we all know by now, Steve Jobs, CEO of Apple and genius of the last few years, has stepped down as CEO of Apple due to health issues. As most of you hopefully know, for the last few years, Steve Jobs was diagnosed with a very rare form of pancreatic cancer. He said, he'll do his job as long as he could, but apparently he's not physically able to do it anymore. As Steve Jobs said himself, and quote, "I have always said if there ever came a day when I could no longer meet my duties and expectations as Apple CEO, I would be the first to let you know. Unfortunately, that day has come." So yeah, because of health issues and everything, he just physically cannot, be CEO of Apple anymore. He just physically cannot take the job. So then the big question is, who's the new CEO of Apple now? Who will be running the company and basically be in charge of all of our Apple products? Well, as no surprise to the employees, apparently, and the board themselves, the new CEO of Apple and former Chief Operating Officer was Tim Cook. I've personally never heard the name before, but like I said, none of the employees were surprised. They said that it was quite an obvious choice. It was a unanimous vote by the board at Apple. So I guess we're leaving the company in good hands. Steve Jobs, handpicked the man himself, and nobody's arguing with it. So I guess it's okay. I mean, it's not like we really have a choice anyways, but good to know we're left in the hands of somebody that everybody at Apple trusts. Now, I've never been a personal fan of Apple. Actually, years ago, I absolutely hated it. I was, PC only, or just anything Apple. I just hated. Anytime I saw that, anything white or anything with that logo on it, I just absolutely hated it. Didn't want anything to do with it. I never got an iPod. I actually had bought a Zune. Never got a MacBook or a Mac or anything like that. So I was never really a big fan of Apple. And because of that, I really, really used to not like Steve Jobs at all. It was always this big, clash between him and Bill Gates for me. And for me, Bill Gates would always win. I loved Windows, loved the PC, all that. But thankfully, I have actually matured in the last few years, and since, I've gotten out of that whole high school phase and everything, I've really come to respect Apple as a company and, as a mainstay in our global economy, essentially. And therefore, Steve Jobs himself. Again, like I said, I used to really hate him, especially when they were unveiling new products, and every single time they held a conference and would show something new, they would always say it was this revolutionary new thing that would change the world, and it was so new, when usually it was just an odd spin on an already existing product, or just the next version of one of their old products that they were still marketing as something completely new and revolutionary. And that just really used to annoy me, because they're not that great. Now, I still kind of think it's a little bit annoying, but at the same time, especially after being in graphic design and advertising for a little while, I found out that it's really just really good marketing. Or, you know, if the company themselves hypes up their products so much, then that gets more people hyped up about it. You know, if you just kind of let your product out there, then people are, you know, slowly going to get it. But if you, you know, charge up the whole thing so much, then people are going to go rush out and buy it, and then they'll, you know, people will still keep buying it afterwards. So it is good marketing, but at the same time, their conferences, whenever they release or, you know, showcase new products, is still a little bit annoying, but I do respect it. And personally, the other huge thing that made me start respecting Steve Jobs a little bit more is when I found out how much of a financial help he was to the beginning of Valve, which, huge Valve fan. Love TF2, love Portal, love all of that stuff. Steam name and other information down below in the description. So, essentially, Steve Jobs is no longer CEO of Apple, as he has been since most of us can remember. New CEO is Tim Cook. I guess we'll just have to see how that goes. And please, even if you're not an Apple fan, at least be a decent human being, and don't be, you know, sending hate mail or doing any kind of hate thing, you know, towards Steve Jobs personally or anything. You know, wish him the best of luck, you know, best of health in, you know, as best as he can at this point. You know, hopefully, you know, Apple will be able to give us the same kind of products that they have been, and it won't be affected too much. And who knows, it may even get better. You know, we'll just have to wait and see. Well, that about does it for this week's vlog. I have absolutely no idea what next week is going to be. So I guess you'll just have to come back and find out. Until then, I've been your host, Trilas, and I hope to see you back here next week.